Okay, let's talk about Unit 8. Unit 8 is going to be about aquatic and terrestrial pollution. And so, starting with this first case study, this is really good information here as far as applying some of the information that we will be learning about in Unit 8. So, I highly recommend that you read through this and maybe even use it as a case study, something you add to your growing kind of portfolio of all the different case studies that we have that you can go back and study before the test. So that's a really good one there. All right, let's go ahead and move into Module 47, which is all about sources of pollution, human impacts on ecosystems, and then endocrine disruptors. So the very first thing that you need to understand is you need to understand and be able to identify what is a point source and what is a non-point source of pollution. So make sure that you are familiar with those terms and that you read some of the examples here in the text, and that you also can identify those. So if you were given examples on the test, you should be able to identify if they're point or non-point source. Okay, so that's that. Also understanding that water pollution, and really this is true of any pollution, that organisms can handle a certain amount of pollution. We call that the ecological tolerance. If you remember, you all learned that back in Unit 1 or Unit 2, I believe it was Unit 1. And that we have these things that are called indicator species, which are the first organisms that usually have issues in an ecosystem. And so those indicate to us that there's something awry with the health of the ecosystem. So make sure that you understand those terms, and that's going to talk about that here. And then knowing the difference, we move into the different types of pollutants that we have. So knowing the main info or the main information about all of those different types of pollutants would be important. So we have the heavy metals like lead, arsenic, mercury, quite a bit of information there. Moving into the synthetic or man-made chemicals, pesticides, pharmaceuticals, military, like biological weapons, industrial compounds, all of those things are really important to know. And then understand, like we have these things called forever chemicals. That would be something good. Maybe I'll pull up and we'll do a case study on forever chemicals. That's something that's really important and we see in the news sometimes. Anyway, so understanding that information. This is a really good table to know at the bottom of page 556. Then moving on, understanding what each of these things are. So chemical pollutants can be categorized as either neurotoxins, carcinogens, teratogens, allergens, or endocrine disruptors. And realizing what those different chemicals actually do to humans, that would be super important. Here's some definitions here for you on each of these terms as well. Okay, and then lastly, this unit is going to end up talking about oil pollution, and that comes from multiple different types of sources. One just being urban runoff is a huge source of oil pollution, so understanding what that is, and that would be something that you need to know. And then how do we remediate oil pollution? So once oil's in the environment, how do we then get rid of it, or how do we handle that? Okay, and then that will take us to the end of Module 47. Again, really nice test questions here at the end of Module 47. I'll see you here next time, and we'll discuss human impacts on wetlands. That's all. Talk to you guys in class.